Hello, I'd like to talk to you about the year 2022. We all know that adds up to 3 2s are 6, and 6 is a very mystical and yet very earthy, grounding kind of number that brings out the creative essence of our being while also bringing out the logic of understanding. And because 22 is a higher number in numerology, in the year alone, not the century. So what we're looking at here is understanding that this is bringing us into a greater awareness of our purpose on this planet. So if you've been under the stress of COVID and wondering, why am I locked up in my home, and why do I have to work from home, or why have I actually caught it and survived COVID? These kinds of questions might be going around in your mind. Well, actually, it all comes down to a very simple one, that 22 is the year that you're going to question your very existence. Now, that doesn't sound very good, really, in some ways, because people will come into your life who will question mark you. Why are you doing that today? Why didn't you do it last week? It might be a simple question, but when you come to answer it, you begin to realize this is something more than just a simple question. It's saying, what were you preparing in this last year just gone, which we're still in right now, and what were you doing? What happened? Was there any big event, something that made you realize that you needed to change your point of view, look out at the world in a different way? Now, whether it was actually a thunderstorm, a shower that just drenched yourself while you were walking home and you were frustrated because you got soaked, to something more serious like a tornado that, for example, as I speak this now, has ripped through half of our country for 100 miles, and poor people are all suddenly no home. What would happen now? What would you do? Where would you go? That is devastating. And my heart goes out to all those people who either lost their homes or, even worse, lost loved ones. So this is not the hell that it sounds, but rather the cleansing period of ending the Piscean age. And those of you who've been listening to me on the SoundCloud.com will already know that I have a 2-hour talk there on the Piscean age and the Great Aquarian age. These two great ages are overlapping right now, and in order for us to realize that we need to let go of what was, if we're clinging too much, I'm afraid you're in for some troubles that are going to seem like a slap in the face or a disaster of the century for you. But in reality, what it's really doing is freeing you up to think more about who you are and what you really want to do. So let's bring this down to earth. What if you were in a job that you hate, and every day you moan and groan about it, and you tell yourself that you have to go there because you need the money, and you have to have the money, and you can't get by without the money, and you've got 900 expenses, and even working your butt off, there is not enough money? Well, and you suddenly turn up at work in the new year and they say, I'm sorry, but we have to let you go. Is it the end of the world? Or is it like a bang on the head that's saying, wake up, you've been complaining about this job for all this time, and now this is your golden opportunity to rethink, who are you? What did you always want to study when you were young and you told yourself, I'm not good enough at it, I'll never be good enough at it, I'm stupid? Or what was it that you started to do and went halfway through it and let circumstances come into your life where you talked yourself out of completing what you were doing, and you've had that little niggly thing going on in your mind over the years about, well, I could go back and finish it, but there's all this other stuff I have to do, and I haven't got time, and 101 excuses that you've laid on yourself to prevent yourself from going back. And of course, the big question would be, well, why did you prevent yourself from going back? And maybe there was a fear that you would in some way let yourself down, let your family down, be seen by other people as an idiot when you think you're actually quite clever. But you know, often the clever people really do put themselves down because they're afraid to be really clever. So maybe you are really clever and you've just ignored your ability to study and learn for all these years. Maybe it's time now to go back to college, or to the local college, that is, and start on the bottom rung. Or maybe, no, you left that thing half done and you need to go and enroll in a university. Or maybe you need to study some practical thing. I had a family member recently who was talking about studying mechanics and repairing cars for years and really not happy doing it. Now, out of the blue, there's a sudden idea that wants to do something entirely different. What he wants to do remains to be seen because he's still processing. Yes, we are processing over the last 100 years of our life. Well, obviously some of you are going to say, I'm not 100, I've never lived 100. But you know, your grandpas have, your grandmas have, and they tell you stories when you were young, a little child, and you took those in as your future. So although they're past and gone on into the spirit world, you're carrying their hopes and dreams. It's in your DNA, or it's in the influence they gave you while you were growing up, so that it's in your RNA. So are you acting out the dreams and hopes of your gran and grandpa, or even more later, your mums and dads? You know, sometimes we've had 2 or 3 marriages from our parents, and we've had to survive that. Sometimes we've had 2 families brought together with suddenly stepbrothers and stepsisters. Did that interest you, or did that destroy you? What did you go through? How did that affect your choices and the things that you wanted to do? Now, I had my parents, they stayed with me, but they argued with themselves morning, noon and night. Even when I was an adult, before I even left to come and live in America, they were still arguing, and there was no reason to argue because we kids weren't there for them to argue about. So instead they would argue over trivial things that normally some people would say, well, let it go, it doesn't matter, it's not important. To them it's a big issue. But on the other side of the fence, they were very supportive to one another in many other ways. I saw the yo-yoing up and down, and of course when I left home and I got married, I saw me yo-yoing up and down in my first marriage. And I knew that I was acting out my parents, but I couldn't stop it because I was defending myself. I was protecting myself from the negativity that my first husband was throwing at me because I'd married my parents. You see, we don't realize we do these things, but the actual things we're running away from are the actual things that we know, that we feel familiar with. And so even though we say we don't want this going on in our lives anymore, we actually attract it to us. And then we look for the good parts that our family has given us, and we look for that in that partner, and we see it. And we think, oh yes, this is Mr. Ideal or Miss Ideal, and we get married. And what we don't realize is that as we start interacting, bringing out the personality characteristics that we've gotten from our parents, our grandparents, even some of our siblings if we're the youngest one. And what do? We throw that at our partner. And we expect them to understand that we are going through an imbalance and they're supposed to make allowances for us, but they don't because they've got their issues and their imbalances. And so next thing you know, your 6s and 7s, you can't agree with your dreams, your hopes, the promises you made to one another. They seem to be going out the window. Well, I know all about that because I got rid of that first marriage and I went straight into another marriage with a gentleman who was a wonderful father to my children, but who was drinking, gambling, and lying to me. Well, at first I didn't know that, I'm believing every lie he told me. And over time I started to realize there's more booze in him than there was last week. Last week was just a beer, This week it's 2 or 3 beers, and before I knew it, I had a drunk husband. So what do? You survive. You put up with it. You say to yourself, okay, he'll maybe get out of it. I'll nag him stupid. I'll tell him go get dried out. The kids need you. Whatever it was, you think you're saying the right thing. But actually I was pounding him into being worse. But I couldn't see that then. I didn't understand that. I didn't realize that I was using my dominant father to aggressively try and control him. Nor did I realize I was wimping and using my mother, who was always complaining that things weren't right. So I was complaining. So what was I doing? I was making that marriage worse, not better. And then I came out of that marriage into my last husband, Stephen, who was an angel. He was behind me, supported me, helped me in every way. But I'd married my mum. He was constantly ill, constantly sick. And I was always helping him. And no matter what we did, it didn't get better. Why? Because he liked the attention while he was ill. Yes, there are people out there who do like to play on their issues and get more and more attention. My mother was like that. And I didn't know that in some ways maybe I was like that, especially before I had my breakdown and my PD and clinically died. I thought I was 100% with it. I'm a minister, I've studied psychology and psychiatry, I've studied hypnosis, I know all these alternative therapy things, I'm treating myself, I'm working on me, I've got myself together. Until I fell apart and realized I didn't have any of it. I was practicing it, but it was going in there and out there. It was going in there and out there. In other words, I was expounding, complaining, moaning and groaning about my lifestyle at home while I was out in the public eye saying everything's marvelous, we can do this, we can do that, being a keynote speaker, saying all the right things to all the right people who would go away full of joy because what they heard from me, but I was not in the mode at home. So I had to learn that. And where did I learn it? In Japan. I went over to Japan with lots of things to teach. Yes, crystal acupuncture, pterogram therapy, psychology, psychiatry, psychic development, the list goes on. I did workshops, I did talks, promos, proof of survival of life after death, private session. The list went on, and I was there for over 26 years. Many, 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 many times beyond counting. And I taught over 20,000 people. But I was teaching me while I was teaching them. Every word I was now saying was reverberating like in my head over and over again. Go home, work on yourself. You just told these people this stuff. You're channeling, you're a medium, you're teaching with your spirit guides in your head. Now go home and practice it. And I did, and I did, and I did, and I did. And I still do, and will do, until I'm gone from here. Because you see, we are never instilled with one point of view. We have a multitude of points of view going on in our brain box all the time, from all that family input, from all the friends of the family input, from all the distant family members' input on the phone in another country, from all the people that we bumped to in the street who said 3 sentences but somehow had an effect on us, for all the people that we worked with who would moan and groan or speak full of joy of their work in some way affecting you, from all the people that you met in school that you can't even remember who are your best friends and your enemies, from all the teachers that came and went and said you have to be an A student because you can't be a D student all your life. And are you a D student today? Or are you an A student for you, for yourself? You see, a lot of these things that people said to us at the time, we didn't want to hear it. We didn't want to know what they were saying because we thought we knew better. After all, we know ourselves, we know our mind, we know what we're thinking, we know what we're seeing, we know what we're hearing. touching, tasting, smelling, the five senses. So how can someone else know how I enjoy my fish sticks? Or how does someone else know I hate strawberries? Not unless I tell them. And then if I do tell them, they might say, well, that's ridiculous because I love strawberries, why don't you? And put you down for not liking strawberries. But did you know there's a quantum amount of people who are actually allergic to strawberries and they break out in rashes? So it's not so daft, really, is it? It was quite commonplace when I was a child to hear someone say they're allergic to strawberries. Okay, but today nobody talks about it. So, hey, if you've been eating strawberries lately and loved them and you found you got a rash all the time, welcome to the world of allergies. Okay, yes, we all have allergies. We all have allergies to people. I bet you never thought of it like that. But certain people generate a certain energy, and as soon as your instinct kicks in to feel their aura, because we all do it, even if you don't know you're psychic, you have this ooh feeling, and the next thing you know, you're reacting. That's an allergy. You're reacting with some part of your body going, oh, they're making me feel like I've got a headache, my back's suddenly aching more than ever, or, I hurt my finger 3 days ago and it didn't really hurt, it was better, but suddenly it's hurting again. That is a message. Something's going on in your brain and one of your meridians, and it's telling you, hey, you're with someone who's upsetting you in your finger. And what finger is this? This is the pointing finger. It's your fault. I did that. So that person's come into your life and they've got a negative aura, and suddenly you're upset because you've let them in, and it's their fault that they've come into your life and upset you. But actually, the truth is, if you had your barrier up, if you had your vibes going in the right mode so that your aura is strong, you wouldn't even notice them. You wouldn't even feel them, because you'd say something like, nice day, and you'd walk off on your way, and they would be left standing, wondering why you weren't talking to them. But we do it a lot, and we don't even know we've done it, because we're in a store, and there's someone who's just standing behind us, and they say, oh dear, that person's got many coupons, what are we going to do? I'm in a hurry, blah, 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 and you're standing thinking, this person's really negative. And for some unknown reason, you suddenly say, you know what, I'm going to go to the quick, help myself, get out. And you carry your stuff over and get out there. And you don't even realize that you were reacting to that person's aura more ways than just the one that you knew here that they were negative. You were reacting to all the negative people you've ever met that were like them, who were impatient, including yourself. Because yes, we all have times when we're impatient. So what am I saying? We react in negative ways to the people who are memories of other people that we've met throughout our life who've also been negative. So while your brain is processing the many negative people you've met, it's going wild in here with impulses of electrical shocks, if you like, to the brain, down through the meridians, right into the particular weak part of your body where you store those negative memories. Now, I wish I could just say that there would only be one negative memory somewhere that would be the key and everything would come tumbling out of you. But unfortunately it doesn't, because we have layers. It's like having a nice cream cake, and it looks all nice and chocolatey on top, and then underneath is a bit of sponge, and underneath that might be some jam, and underneath that might be a bit of chocolate, and we got a glorious combination of the most wonderful gâteau, that's French for cake, that you could possibly find. And you eat it, and the next day you're in the bathroom and you're feeling sick and you're thinking, what the hell did I do? You don't realize that the cake was full of poison for your body. And you don't realize that you were eating a cake that reminds you emotionally of 101 other cakes you've ever ate in your life. And all through that time you have made no association that every time you put a lot of sugar in your body, you're having a sugar reaction. And then what happens? You get cold or you get hot, your adrenals play up, and you rationalize it away. Oh, it must be this, it must be that. Instead of paying attention to your psyche, the part of you that says when you put that cake in your mouth, I shouldn't be eating this. Because you say it out loud. I shouldn't be eating it. This is not good for me, but I'm loving it anyway. Okay? Well, you've got to be your own policeman or policewoman. You've got to say to yourself, I am only having one mouthful. That will tell me how delicious it is. I've tasted it. And now that I've had that one mouthful, I have to be satisfied by that. Now, if I take that generally into your life, one experience teaches you a lot. If you bother to look at yourself, how you react to that experience, how you talk about that experience, how you look like that experience, or how you don't look like that experience, because you might be hiding it from yourself or from anyone else. There's 101 trillion reasons as well why you might want to hide something. Okay, I mentioned that my second husband was drinking all the time. He was hiding a tremendous amount of loneliness from when he was an infant, because when he was an infant, there was no choice for his mother but to put him into a home when her husband died, because there wasn't anyone else to help her. No extra money in those days, no welfare, nothing. So she had to go to work. And the only way she could go to work was to put her children in a home. And in those days, a child was signed in for 14 years. So for 14 years, he was in a home. And in those 14 years, she could only visit once a year because it was way north from where she lived. And she couldn't afford the train fare. The money she had barely paid for her baby infant she kept and the small accommodation she had. And even when she did find a home and a place where she could live with that child and be an in-home cook and general person who looked after someone else's family, who did even say she could bring her children home, could not get them out of the home because she'd signed them there till they were 14. His elder sister and himself. Now I'm telling you this story because I want you to realize that it's different today. If you need help, there's a foster parent. If you really need them in a home, there are people who come and take them out or help you get them out when you've cleaned up or got yourself established. So there's always hope you can get those children back earlier. Today it's different. And women have a lot of support. But what about the men? What about when the woman runs away and escape because she's not happy, so she thinks, but the basic thing, the husband is Mr. Nice Guy, but he's turning into Mr. Monster Guy because she's not doing her part in the relationship. So she leaves, runs away, wants to go and play. And you're left a man with 2 children who has to figure out diapers and boxes of lunch and stuff or whatever it is in the beginning, but ultimately to be a real dad. Are you one of those, a real dad? Are you a dad who goes to work and then comes home and has to pick up the kids and do all that? Now you know what it's like to be a woman back in the old days. But are you enjoying it? Or are you becoming a sacrificial lamb? Are you working in a job that you hate so you can pay all the bills for your family? Why aren't you looking for more? Why aren't you climbing the corporate ladder? Are you telling yourself you can't be more? So, coming back to 22, this is the time. And this is a time for families to pick up the pieces and repair the family where possible. And it means everyone has to get involved, even the children. So, all right, if they're young and they're like 5 or 6, they don't really know what's going on. But you can teach them now because they're young enough to learn, hey, you do put the garbage out, and hey, there is a present when you do it, a big kiss. And a thank you so much for helping Mummy and Daddy is much better than take the garbage out. Oh, why do I have to tell you 4 times? Do it again and again and again. Because there's no reward. But if you teach a child in the beginning that you love and respect them and honor them for the help that they're giving you, even if it's just to pick up a pin off the floor. Thank you. Take time. And if you're out at work or anyone else, anywhere else, and someone's miserable, compliment them. Say, thank you so much. And they'll be going, what she's talking about? Or he's talking about thanking me for yelling at them. And then when you can see they're questioning it, you can say, I needed to be yelled at because I needed to remember there's the other side of me that can smile and say, thank you for testing me. You're going to throw a loop in their mind. What? I didn't even know that, but you're going to send them home with a message to themselves. Look at you. Because you're looking at you, mirror image, look at yourself when you say it. And they will learn. So this is the Aquarian age. This is the new energy that's coming with 22, that we have to be aware of how we sound. So if you're screaming, yelling at your kids, have a mirror somewhere where you can catch the expression. Are you going, rearing up your face? Where's your beauty? Where's your peace? Where's your tranquility in that face? I'm working on my beauty crystal thesis right now. And I know that living a long life, because I'm in my 80th year, that I have a lot of history to look back at of the many faces that I've pulled throughout my life, good and bad. And I have to look at how my face has stimulated my brain to send images in the form of energy down into my body to program my body to either be negative or positive. Now, if I'm positive, I'm standing tall, I have a good posture, I feel wonderful, a smiley face, and so on. Okay? If I'm negative, my back's hurting, and my face, look, I'm in pain, and my neck's now hurting me, so I'm crunching my shoulders up, and I'm cold because my liver's not working properly, and next thing I know, I'm very ill. Well, I've been down that pathway, had many illnesses, diseases, and got myself better, because when I realized I was ill, I went into that illness, took it back up into my brain, found the way I talked, and then told myself, that's the end of that, I'm not doing that. Deprogram. So I do many different things, crystal acupuncture, pterogram therapy on myself. And as I do it on myself and I see my changes, then I share that with my students. I've been sharing crystal acupuncture and pterogram therapy with so many people now for about 40 years. And I've seen a tremendous change in all those people. There isn't one that I haven't seen an improvement. Because when you use the crystal acupuncture, it sends a light beam of energy that is your own energy, amplified by the crystals as the energy passes around the molecules that are in the crystals and shoots a laser beam out at the point, which then shoots that all the way up around your body and into your brain box, where you have a revelation and you feel so much calmer. Even if you don't know what the revelation is, because it might be in your deep subconscious, so you don't actually know what you've just told yourself. But in the days to come, you wake up feeling better. You feel more confident. You decide you want to do something to change your life. It could be something very simple, like you always drink your coffee on Friday at a certain coffee shop, and for some reason you think, I'm not going Friday, I'll go Saturday instead. And you go in on Saturday and you meet someone that you would never met if you had gone on Friday. And that person ends up being a door opener as you chat, and they give you a card and say, come and see me. And maybe you're thinking, well, because the old youth and the old period of last year is still going, I don't know. But the new you is, I want to go. I want to see. So stop fighting yourself. You've got nothing to lose by going and seeing, have you? You can always walk away afterwards. You can say, no, it's not for me. But if you don't go, hey, what have you missed? You might miss something. So 22 is going to bring you inspiration out of the blue through your psyche. Your spirit guides, if you're already a psychic or aware of it, may well be talking to you in your mind, in your head, as your own thoughts. For example, my spirit guide said to me just this last week, I said, no, it's not, yesterday, last week, I was busy doing another show all day long and talking and doing stuff. I didn't miss my body belt until late at night, about 9 o'clock. I hadn't even looked for my phone because I'd been online and doing all sorts of things. Where's my phone? I'm walking all over the house looking. Finally, I had to get my iPad and say, where's my phone? Guess where it was? It was in the local store. I'd left it in my cart, and someone had handed it in. Thank you, someone, whoever that was, being honest. And this is not the first time I've done that, because a body belt, if it's in the basket area, I could see it with all the groceries while I'm putting them in the car. But when I put it in the top little rack there, I can't see it, and I forgot it. And I was looking for this, and while I was looking, my spirit guide said, "It is safe," in my head. So I went there and got it, and sure enough, it was safe. Okay, so nothing was missing. Everything was in there. The oneness looks after us, and if you're listening, and if you've developed your psychic ability, you need to realize that first and foremost, it's for you. You have to learn to know your spirit is working in this life, in your body, to do what you came to do for you. Now, what you came to do for you might also be what you came to do for other people. So I came to this world, for me, to learn ascension, spiritually in vibration, to be aware of my purity of soul in my body, in spite of or despite all my negativity. And that way, I had lots of negative things, so every time I did something, my Jiminy Cricket consciousness came on my little shoulder, like in Pinocchio, and said, "Why did you act like that? Why did you scream and shout like that? What did you get out of that? Why did you do that and make yourself so miserable?" And I'm sitting there going, well, I had to, with the kids, the this, the that. And finally, one day, I stopped saying my excuses to me and started listening to my spirit guides. And they said, well, there is another way to see this. You're being tested. You're being tested to understand the pain and sufferings of the world. And when you see that, then you'll be able to go out and help people who are also in pain and suffering. And that's what I did. And that's what I've been doing since I was 35. Consciously knowing that I was helping a lot of people to overcome their fear, pain, anger, and guilt. And so what did I do? I went out as a missionary to different countries. I got paid in some countries and paid very well. Other countries I did things down in Mexico for free because nobody had any money. In India I did a lot of things for free because nobody had any money. I went where I needed to be, and I went where I needed to learn, and I learned, and I continue to learn, and I still do today. And I want to encourage you to learn. Just because you got out of school, at 16, 18, 24, whatever it was you studied, doesn't mean you can't stop learning. For example, supposing you suddenly wanted to play golf, you could turn up and just try it and get frustrated, and you eventually say, I need someone to teach me to swing. I need to find out if I've got the right irons. And you would take a class. That's learning. And you're learning because you want a hobby. Well, take the same attitude and learn whatever it is for a new job. And get a new grade. And get a new understanding of yourself in a different position, a different dynamic. For example, I had someone years ago who was stacking shelves. And he was doing that to make money and feed the wife, kids, and so on. And meanwhile, at night, he was studying online to be a chiropractor. And the years went by, 2 or 3 or 4, and finally he qualified. And last I heard of him, because time moves on and we all moved to different towns and different places, but he was very, very popular as a chiropractor and so busy, had to open up a second office. Not for him to work in, but for the people that he'd pulled out of college because they qualified and took them on and gave them the benefit of his experiences in how to run an office and give healing to people. And so he learned in time that what he'd studied in that part-time was motivated by his desire to be a chiropractor, actually went on to teach him to become a teacher of chiropractic modalities. So you see, we don't know where we're going when we start, but we do know somewhere down the road we'll end up. So when I started as a psychic child, giving people messages about their loved ones have been killed in bombing raids or overseas, I was a child. I didn't really understand the power of that message, but I was doing it anyway because I was encoded to do it. And as I did that through my life and became a medium in public, and trance medium was the in thing, all these spirit guides would come through me and speak through me to an audience of 100, 200 people. And I'd wake up like afterwards and open my eyes to see all these faces staring at me. And I'm like, I'm awake, I'm me now. I hadn't a clue what I'd said because I've been in trance. And people were coming up to me and saying, "Oh, Margaret, that was fantastic. You said this and this." And I'm like, did I? Did I? And there came a time one day when my spirit guide said, "Margaret, you don't need to be in a trance. We can do this with you awake." I'm like, what? I don't know all this stuff you're talking about. Was I wrong? Of course I did. It was in my deep subconscious, and all they had to do was bring it forward into this third eye of my consciousness. And so today, I can read you like a book. I can tell you all about your history. I can tell you, even today I was with someone whose father was on the other side, and she had not got closure. And I'm having my hair done, hence all this prettiness. I just suddenly had her dad, and we were proof of survival for her, and tears ran down her face, and she got the closure she needed. And then they didn't stop there. They started telling her what she could do. So we have to understand that we're all mediums. We all have spirit guides. We all have guardian angels, and we all have the ability to channel and bring through their wisdom and knowledge. And this new age, the Aquarian age, is going to allow these children who are being born at 2 years old, who can read, fiddle around on their phones, stand on a stage at 7 and sing like an adult, do card tricks like an adult with those tiny hands and still amaze us. That's just on X Factor or America's Got Talent or something. So if you haven't watched it, do go and watch the reruns and appreciate that these kids are showing you, the adult, that you too have some talents inside you. And if you haven't used them yet, it's about time you started using them. And with 22, the year coming in, it is going to stimulate you to find your talents, to find your skills and bring them out and use them. Now, that doesn't mean we will have to be playing the piano or singing a song. It might be your new talent is gardening, and you're growing your own vegetables and you're having fun being out there doing it. Or it might be that you suddenly feel you're drawn to wood and you want to build yourself an outhouse. Not that many people have outhouses these days, but it's a creative project. It's something that you might end up saying, well, I'm never going to use it as an outhouse, but it's a little house. I can go in there and read my paper and nobody's going to be bothering me because they won't know where I'm at. Okay? And not even put a toilet in it, and just put a chair in it, and put a window in it maybe, so you can get a bit of light so you can read that book. That sounds silly, doesn't it? But I actually know someone who did build a small house for themselves. It was only about 8 by 8, just so they could come away from the noise in the house. And it was that person's space, and everyone was told to stay away. And that was just something that came up in passing, that I was on the road and someone told me that story. So you see, there's always something that we can learn from another person as well. Hearsay, we chat, we share stories. If you think about the times of ancient times going back 400 or 500 years, there wasn't a newspaper. There wasn't printing. So how did we get to know the news? Well, minstrels would travel from city to city doing their little tricks and things, getting paid money for it, and sing their songs of what's happening in the town just up the road where they've been maybe 4 days ago. and collage it with entertainment, because most of the people of the town didn't travel to the next town. Only one or two might go and come back with something that the village needed or the town needed. And villages were small, and there weren't so many people on this planet. If you go back 5,000 years, there was probably only 1 million people alive on this planet, because we all died from diseases and water illnesses and, from cholera and things like that. And most people probably died around 40. If they were at war, they certainly probably died in their 20s. Today we live longer, and there are pushing 8 billion of us. I can't even imagine 1 billion people. And 8 billion, and we're still producing babies. Where are we all going to go? Well, we can't all go everywhere in a big town. Some of us have to be in the country, some of us have to be farmers and so on. But why is COVID here? I mentioned this in the beginning. It's pruning our numbers. And here we are trying to all fight to stay alive, because why? We believe we're afraid of death. We still find people on this planet who believe that when they're dead, they're dead. There is no more. So they want to live as long as they can. There are people who are trying to live to be 110, 20, because there's been people who have lived that long. Well, hey, here's some news for you. Back in ancient times, like when Abraham, or Abram as he was called, was alive, those people could live to be 130 years old. Why? They weren't running around like chickens with their heads cut off trying to do 900 things. Life was simple. You get up with the sun, you go to bed when the sun goes down. You do what business you can during the light hours, and you rest and appreciate your life at night, and you talk to God, whatever God would be for you, or gods, or many demigods, or whatever it was, but you were connected to the oneness. And so life wasn't stressful the way it is now, unless you went to war. Then yes, okay, a lot of people died fighting. Why are we still having wars? Why are we still making bullets for guns? Why are we allowing people to buy guns? Why are we letting everybody dominate everybody else? Because the Piscean age said, it taught us for over 3,500 years. And go back and listen to my lecture on that if you want to. Over 3,500 years, we were in the vibration of Pisces, the fish. And if you think two fish going in opposite directions, how could we possibly agree? We got the higher and the lower self. Higher self is saying, praise God, hallelujahs, and the lower self is saying, praise the devil, and all the shit that comes down that level. Separate worlds. We have to go to war and fight and conquer that land because we're greedy and we need more of that stuff, negative. We're teachers, we're philosophers, we're having counsel here. We're saying if we go over there to conquer that land, we must teach them. Now it's like we have to teach the kids in the store. We have to teach the kids in the school. We have to send videos via a computer to another country so those people can learn what we know over here instantly. Well, instantly doesn't necessarily work, because if someone's in that instant doing something else, they might say, oh, I'll come back to that later, but they never do. I know I never do. I have every good intention, but other things get in my life, and I find notes I've written all over the place. Go back and do this, go back and see this. Oh gosh, I never did that, and it's a year ago, and it's still on my desk saying, waiting for me to do it. And then I go and look to do it, and hey, it's not what it was. So it doesn't matter anymore because things have changed. So I don't need it. So then I go through all my trash notes and chuck them away and go, oh, I might have missed an opportunity. I should have done that. But no, I didn't miss an opportunity, because if I had known I was supposed to connect with that person, I would have done it. And how would I have known I would have needed to connect with that person? My spirit guides would have said, or I'd have had a feeling that I should call them right now. And I do get those feelings, and I'm sure you do. So yes, if you get a pushing feeling, put down what you're doing and make that call, even if it's just to leave a number, because that person may be simply another person who's going to link you with another person, and that may be another person. And maybe you're going to go through 10 people before you find that job you want. But it all starts with that one effort of telling people what you're looking for, and what you need, or what you've got to offer. You know, a whole bunch of people online now selling all sorts of stuff, and there's a whole bunch of people looking for lots of stuff, but they don't find one another because they're not putting the right words in, or which is listening to the way one talks and the way, you know, there was a whole bunch of people saying you have to write in a certain way, you have to attract people in a certain way, and I would try the certain ways and they didn't work. And I thought, why am I doing this? My way has worked for years, which is pick up the phone and talk to someone. But then you can't call someone because it costs too much money on the phone. That forced me to think about doing videos. And I've been doing them ever since. And here I am doing one for you today, sharing and teaching. And all I say is, if you want my advice, if you want help from me, all you have to do is write to me, Professor Margaret, rvc@gmail.com. Tell me what your issue is. I will then reply to your email. Okay, I got you. I heard you. Do you want to have an appointment with me online? Do you want me to answer all your questions face to face with you online or on the telephone, depending where you are? Or do you want to trust me even more to just write all your questions out, and then I will sit down with your spirit guides and my spirit guides and channel everything in detail for you. Now you might think, well, I'm not there and I'm not asking questions, but you know, sometimes it's better if you're not there, because you could be interrupting all the things that your spirit guides want to tell you with your lower self everyday questions. And your spirit guides already know what all your questions are, and they answer them through me. I've had people come back to me and say, oh my goodness, it's as though you're in my house. You knew everything about me, as though you've been watching me all the time. And I said, no, I'm not, but your spirit guides are. They're watching you all the time. So if you're watching this right now, you're watching me, I am actually not thinking or preparing what I want to say to you. I'm ad-libbing in a way, just chatting with you. But I've also got my spirit guides in my head, giving me the focus in how I talk to you. So everything is stringing together as I'm talking to you, which is the way the oneness works. So when I say call one person and many others turn up, so in the same way when I make a video and I share it with you and you happen to find it, then you might well tell someone else, hey, I listened to this. I don't need a reading right now, but my friend up the road does. I'll tell her about Dr. Margaret, and then she'll call her, and I'll be saying, okay, I don't know you because I haven't seen you on my video. I don't know who you are. So I'm saying thank you very much right now for recommending me to someone else that you know needs help. And I certainly will help them because their spirit guides, my spirit guides, know that your spirit guides connected us. See, this is oneness. And then I'm receptive because I'm hearing from my spirit guide, this was a recommendation, and that person is asking questions, and I'm immediately there for them. Oneness knows everything. When I was a child, I heard the voice of God. It's in my book, My Journey into the Oneness, which you might like to get a copy of, either ebook or real hard softback if you want one. And then you'll know all about me because I put a lot of my truths in there, which was hard for me to do, about my experiences with my spirit guides and myself and the way I learned and evolved. So my journey into the oneness. And it began when I was 4.5, my sister had been brought home that day, and mother was dealing with the baby, and I was asked to fetch something. And as I got in the hallway, without me reaching a light or anything, the light went on, and I had all around me sound around, which hadn't even been invented when I was 4.5. And I heard this voice, man's voice, and it said, Child, you are a child of God, you will know great suffering, and you will help those who are suffering. And I always remember it was like a hypnosis moment. And then I'm like, who are you? Where's this voice coming from? Talking aloud. And this voice said, I am the one. And I said, what's the one? And the voice said, all that is. And I said, what is all that is? And the voice said, oneness. And I knew straight away, without asking, oneness was a word I had to remember. Well, of course, I did remember it, and the light went off, and I ran back into Mum because I was kind of scared. I didn't know why that happened. And I looked at her foot, and I thought, I don't know, great suffering. My mother's suffering. That's what I'll be. I'll go and make her foot better. And I went up to her and I said, I want to make your foot better, because it was up on a pedestal. My sister was in her arms. And she just said, okay, because I guess she thought I was jealous because of the baby, but I wasn't. And I put my hands on her on her foot, sorry. And then I remember my hands were hot. And that wasn't the first time I'd done it, but that was the first time my brain went, duh, duh, you're healing someone, because of that voice and the words healing. And I went on to do a lot of that. Now, you might get a message in your brain, in your own brain, with your thoughts, and you feel it's out on a limb different. I mean, for me, that was sound around. There was no way I was going to miss that. But you could have that. You could be in your room and suddenly you feel like your mother's calling you from her voice in the other room, but you know your mother's not in your house. Who's calling you? And you go to see and there's no one there. Your spirit guides will use familiar voices and sound like someone so that you're not scared of it. Well, one day you might want to do my psychic development class that I'm teaching right now. I just done on this Sunday for locals here an introductory course to the psychic ability and what it is. And then they're following up. We're doing a physical thing here in my town in Lake Havasu City. And I am recording it. And I will be putting it up for students to go and listen to. And so you might want to sign up, on easypeasysolutions.org or sumariseducationcenter.com, and fill in that you've listened to my video here and you'd like to get a copy of the recording of the introduction to psychic development. And then if you want the rest of it that I'm going to be recording over the next 2 months here in my home, I will have the audio recording, not the video, and I will make that available to my online students to buy for a nominal fee. Have to pay for the apps that I use in order to get this to you. So it's not like I'm lining my pocket with loads of money, and it's not going to be expensive. So bear that in mind, that I will have something to offer you after February, when we'll have done all the physical presence of learning in my company with hands-on practice as well, because we can do that. But later I will also be teaching psychic development online through Zoom, and that will be an addendum that we will share with you at that time. So who knows, you might want to study psychic development. Go to easypeasysolutions.org and sign your name, your phone number, your address, your email, anything else you want to tell me. Put it in the interest box, and I will see it, and I will contact you, and we'll go from there with whatever it is you're asking. So if you want a reading, a counseling session, I do have a page that's going to be up on Sumari's Education Center and Easy Peasy Solution, where you'll be able to see I have packages. And those packages vary in price, from paying for just a reading all the way up to dealing with issues over long periods of time, because you've been going through a lot of mental trauma, emotional trauma, you may be physically ill, and I need to work with you over a period of time to help you get better emotionally, mentally, physically, so that you can tap into your spirit and get divine guidance. Yes, I can take you all that way. So on that note, I want you to understand that I'm working with Dr. Katie Kamara, or Reverend Katie Kamara, who is half my age, who's a whiz kid when it comes to computer, who's currently rebuilding all my websites. So the ones I used to have that you'll find floating around, Sumaris Education Center, easypeasysolutions.org is new, we're doing that. universalchristchurch.com is my ministry, under which my school, Sumaris Education Center, is made legal and binding, in which I can teach you all the things that you need to know, as well as being a minister myself, so I can teach you and train you to be a minister if you'd like to become one, or a minister practitioner where you're a coach and counselor. There are so many things that I could teach you. So I'm not going to sit here and promote all those things. I'm just trying to say right now that I am sharing with you these websites. And I would really appreciate it if you see what Katie Kamara puts on my page or on her own page on Facebook. If you could go there and see all the things she's putting up about what we're doing and what she's promoting, that you might want to follow us on Facebook and see what she puts up, because she does little messages as well. I'm not into that because I don't know how to do that. I'm going to learn. She's going to teach me, but right now I'm pretty good at doing videos, as you can tell, and doing my radio show. And over this last year, I've been actually doing audio for the radio show for people who just want to listen to me, and then I'm doing the video along with it at the same time, so people want to actually watch me on YouTube. So yes, there are hundreds of radio shows and videos in either place. So you can search me online by just putting my name in the Google search. Put Margaret Rogers Van Coops. I'm the only Rogers Van Coops in the whole world. So you will get me without a shadow of a doubt, and you'll be able to see all the many things that come up on Google when you search for me. So that said, I'm going to leave you now and hope that you will realize that I am a woman with a great deal of experience, 80 years in all, and yes, I did start giving messages to people as soon as I could talk. Small childish messages of proof of survival of loved ones on the other side is how I started. And today I can teach you about the light side and the dark side of the oneness, what the oneness is all about. If you're a student who wants to study metaphysical things, I have many, many things I could teach you, but I won't know unless you leave me a message in that box that says, I'm interested in this. I'm looking for a teacher who wants to teach me this topic. Now, if you're picking a topic that not everybody else wants to learn, I will teach you privately. Yes, it does cost a bit more, but you will get the training you require and the diploma at the end of the time period that I've taken to teach you. And yes, there have been people over the years where I've taught them one-on-one. But more importantly, it's very good when we have a big group, because then we can interact. We can do exercises. We can have a great deal more experience as we interact with what we've learned with many people. Now, of course, with COVID right now, we can't all just rush to meet one another. But I will teach you a lot of theory, and I will have you do certain exercises on your own that you can learn and experience things. And I will give you opportunities to practice what you've learned from me with your family and friends, and come back and share and tell us what happened. And if we get rid of COVID and we can have events in towns again where we can congregate again, then I will have practical workshops where you can come, having done all the theory, and try out all the theory into practical form and practice on someone else, whether it's a healing thing, a reading thing, a hypnosis thing, a counseling thing. Well, gosh, there's an endless number of things that you could be learning. So we'll just leave it on that, and hope I'll hear from you in easypeasysolutions.org or sumariseducationcenter.com, or even go to universalchristchurch.com and see what I'm offering to train you as a minister. There are other websites. I'm not repeating all of them. I will be sending this over to Katie Kamara. She will put it up and she will add all the other places you can find us both. So do take a check and have a look. Click on them and you'll be probably surprised at what Katie can do as well. So on that note, I'm saying thank you for listening to me, and please do try all my other shows on soundcloud.com. Ask Dr. Margaret. Bye for now.